Good news today, I got myself a board to put my track on, like the layout on, and yeah, I just went to the shop and bought a big block of plywood, not a block, a plane, I suppose you'd call it. Yeah, it wasn't very expensive at all, it was far cheaper than I was expecting in fact. Anyway, and I've also decided on a location for it in my house, which is on top of this chest of drawers, which originally was going to be a space for a piano, but I decided to get a guitar instead. So yeah, it's now been freed up, and that's where I'm going to put it. And it's already got kind of light which can shine on it to light it, which is already in place, which is cool. So today, anyway, I thought I would have a try at making my own ballast. I didn't want it to be fiddly, and I don't want it to be stuck down forever. So my idea is to make ballast out of sandpaper, coarse sandpaper. So I got the biggest grain sandpaper that I could, the coarsest, which is the largest sand particles, and then I went about placing my pieces of track, which I've got, onto newspaper and drawing around it to create stencils, which then I could use to cut out the sandpaper into the right shapes. The reason I've done this is I'm trying to avoid having the sandpaper near my tracks as much as possible before I've treated it, because I don't want particles of sand to get onto the tracks and then get stuck into the train later on. That's obviously the biggest hazard with using sandpaper. So I'm taking the sandpaper, and the thing that I'm doing is coating it with just a thick layer of PVA glue to make sure it's all sealed in and no particles will escape. Next, I'm doing an undercoat of pure black. The reason I'm trying to use the pure colours is I don't know whether I'll want to have more track later, and I want the colours to be easily matchable. So if I mixed my own colours, they might start to look a bit unmatched, but if I use the colours straight from the pots, then that should be far easier. So I'm using straight jet black for the undercoat, and then a dry brushing of pure white. That way it will sort of bring it out and give it that kind of greyish look. It kind of looks to me quite like tarmac, so I might be able to use this similar technique, maybe with a finer grain, to make some tarmac. And to be honest, I haven't done enough of them because I kind of got bored. I'll do some more later, but I just wanted to see what they would look like under my track. So, and I was a bit excited, so I decided to do a quick layout test and just put the things down on the board to see how they looked. Obviously, they're not as sort of professional looking, I guess, as like the standard way of doing it, but it does have the advantage of being able to be moved around. So if I decide to change the layout of my track, I'll be able to change the ballast with it simply. And obviously a certain degree of suspension of disbelief is kind of necessary in any model train situation. So it doesn't necessarily have to look photoreal, or at least that's the kind of philosophy that I'm using to justify my decisions. Obviously I think this way is a lot cheaper too, and you can easily just knock up some more if you need some more in not a massively long period of time. The only thing is you have to wait for things to dry before you go on to the next stage. Something that occurs to me is that I really will need to figure out a way of doing roads. That I think is going to present one of the most difficult challenges in a kind of modular type setup. It's going to be really hard to make decent looking roads that I can then move later to another position if I feel like it. So I don't know if you've got any, if you're watching this and you've got any ideas or tips on how I could make roads that were easily movable and rearrangeable and not look like absolute guff, then I'd really appreciate some ideas.